In the heart of rural Nigeria, nestled between lush green hills and wide expanses of farmland, lay the village of Kajola, known for its serene beauty and the simplicity of its people. Kajola was a place where everyone knew each other and life moved at leisurely pace. It was in this quiet village that Pastor Emmanuel Oke arrived, bringing with him a sense of hope and a promise of divine blessings. Pastor Emmanuel was a tall, charismatic man with a commanding presence. His eyes sparkled with a mix of wisdom and mystery, and his voice had a soothing quality that seemed to touch the very souls of those who listened. When he first set foot in Kajola, the villagers were captivated by his aura. He spoke of miracles, prosperity, and the boundless love of God, drawing people to the newly established Holy Light Ministry in droves. The small church, initially built from mud bricks and thatch roofing, quickly transformed into a grander structure thanks to the generous donation of the congregation. Women like Mama Ada, who had little to spare, gave their last coins, believing in the pastor's vision of a better future. Men like Efe, the village carpenter, volunteered their skills to ensure the church's completion. The once humble village now had a symbol of hope, towering above the huts and farmland. Pastor Emmanuel's services were unlike anything the villagers had experienced before. His sermons were passionate, filled with stories of faith and redemption. He claimed to have a direct line to the divine, performing miracles that left the congregation in awe. Crippled children walked, the blind received their sight, the barren women conceived. One of the most memorable miracles was the healing of Omoshalewa, a young girl who had been mute since birth. Her mother had tried every remedy, every traditional healer, but nothing had worked. When Pastor Emmanuel laid his hands on Omoshalewa and prayed, the girl spoke her first word, "Mama, I can talk." The villagers erupted in joy and disbelief, and the news of the miracle spread like wildfire. However, not everyone was convinced of Pastor Emmanuel's divine gift. Among the skeptics was Ifeanyi, a young school teacher with a keen mind and a questioning spirit. He watched from the sidelines, his doubts growing with each passing miracles. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. Ifeanyi's doubts deepened when he noticed that the people who claimed to be healed were always closely associated with the pastor. He began to wonder if these so-called miracles were staged. Determined to uncover the truth, he started to investigate, talking to those who had been supposedly healed and observing Pastor Emmanuel's more closely. One evening, while walking home from a late night of grading papers, Ifeanyi stumbled upon a conversation that would change everything. Hidden behind the thick foliage of a mango tree, he heard Pastor Emmanuel speaking with a man he didn't recognize. "You have done very well, Chike." The performance was convincing. Pastor Emmanuel said, handing the man a thick envelope. "Here is your payment. Remember, you must leave the village tomorrow morning." Ifeanyi's heart pounded in his chest as he realized what he had just discovered. The miracles were fake, orchestrated by the pastor to deceive the villagers and extract money from them. He knew he had to act, but how could he convince the villagers who were so deeply under Pastor Emmanuel's spell? Ifeanyi tried to sneak away, but Pastor Emmanuel's bodyguard a towering man with a menacing gaze spotted him. Ifeanyi's heart raised as he attempted to flee, but the bodyguard was too quick. He was caught and dragged back to the pastor's chamber. Pastor Emmanuel's eyes blazed with fury. "You fool! He spat. You think you can expose me? I will never let that happen." Ifeanyi struggled against the bodyguard's grip, but it was no use. Pastor Emmanuel nodded and the bodyguard grip tightened. "Take care of him," the pastor ordered. "Make sure he never speaks again." Ifeanyi's screams were drowned out by the sound of the bodyguard's grip snapping his neck. His lifeless body was dumped in a shallow grave on the outskirts of the village. Pastor Emmanuel's ministry continued to thrive. His congregation grew and his influence expanded. He became a respected figure in the community, known for the charisma and supposed miracles. But the truth about Ifeanyi's faith remained a dark secret, hidden from the prying eyes of the villagers. The news of Ifeanyi's death was a heavy blow to Chioma, his sister, who lived in the bustling city of Lagos. Chioma was a successful and brilliant journalist known for her tenacity and dedication to uncovering the truth. When she heard about her brother's tragic death, she was devastated and immediately took leave from her job to return to Kajola. The village had not changed much since Chioma left years ago. The same serene beauty and simple life greeted her as she arrived. However, the warmth she remembered was overshadowed by grief. Her mother was inconsolable, her once vibrant spirit dulled by the loss of her beloved son. After a few months of mourning, Mama Ifeanyi confided in Chioma about the suspicious circumstances surrounding Ifeanyi's death. She mentioned the unusual handprints she noticed on Ifeanyi's neck, making Chioma suspect foul play. Mama Ifeanyi also told her daughter about Ifeanyi's growing suspicions towards the new pastor, Emmanuel Oke. Determined to uncover the truth, Chioma began her own investigation. She decided to keep her intentions secret, trusting no one in the village. The information from her mother and her own observation confirmed her suspicions about Pastor Emmanuel. Chioma needed a plan to expose him. Chioma started attending the Holy Light Ministry, blending in with the congregation. She observed the so-called miracles and noted the fear and reluctance of those who claimed to be healed. Chioma tried to approach some of the supposed victims, but they were too scared to talk or disappeared from the village soon after. Chioma realized that confronting Pastor Emmanuel directly would not work, so she needed to become part of his inner circle to gather concrete evidence. Crafting a plan, Chioma decided to pose as a desperate woman in need of a miracle. One Sunday, she approached Pastor Emmanuel after the service, pretending to be mute. She carried a note explaining her situation, claiming she needed money urgently and would act as a cripple for him if necessary. Pastor Emmanuel, intrigued by her offer, agreed to use her in his next miracle performance. However, there was a condition. Pastor Emmanuel, known for his sinister ways, hinted that she would have to provide more than just her acting skills. Chioma, quick-witted, came up with a convincing excuse that made Pastor Emmanuel back off from his demand for sexual favors. She told him she had a contagious illness, which deterred him from pursuing his vile intentions further. Chioma meticulously recorded every interaction with Pastor Emmanuel and his associates. She gathered evidence of their conversations, the instructions they gave her on how to act, and the payments they offered. Each encounter brought her closer to the truth, but the risks were high. One wrong move could expose her and put her life in danger. The day of the grand miracle arrived. The church was packed with villagers, eager to witness another display of divine power. Pastor Emmanuel had healed 9 people already, each miracle accompanied by cheers and applause. Chioma was to be the 10th and final miracle of the day. As Pastor Emmanuel laid his hands on Chioma, commanding the evil spirits to leave her, she felt a rush of emotion. This was a moment to expose the fraud. Instead of playing along, Chioma remained silent and still, refusing to respond to the pastor's theatrics. Frustration crept into Pastor Emmanuel's voice as he continued to pray and command. The congregation grew uneasy, sensing something was wrong. In his desperation, after a very long hour of Chioma not yielding, Pastor Emmanuel blurted out, "Why won't you follow the script like we practiced?" Gasps filled the church as the villagers began to understand the implication of Pastor Emmanuel's slips. At that moment, a group of police officers whom Chioma had contacted and briefed beforehand entered the church. Chioma stood up, revealing a hidden microphone that had recorded everything. "I have proof that Pastor Emmanuel is a fraud," Chioma declared, playing the recording for everyone to hear. The evidence was damning, exposing not only the fake miracles but also the payments and coercion involved. The 9 people who had been healed earlier that day came forward, admitting that they were paid to act. The congregation was in shock, their faith shattered by the revelation. Pastor Emmanuel and his associates were arrested on the spot. The village of Kajola was left to pick up the pieces after the scandal. The betrayal ran deep, and it took time for the villagers to rebuild their trust in each other. Chioma, now a hero in the eyes of the community, continued to support her mother and helped the villagers healed from the trauma. With Pastor Emmanuel's behind bars, the church was transformed into a community center, a place for genuine support and fellowship. The villagers learned the importance of questioning and seeking the truth, no longer placing blind faith in charismatic leaders. Chioma returned to Lagos, but frequently visited Kajola, ensuring her mother and the village continued to thrive. Her brother's death was a tragedy, but his legacy lived on in the resilience and unity of the people he loved. The story of Pastor Emmanuel became a cautionary tale, reminding everyone of the dangers of deception